Good evening and welcome to How to Avoid Scams with Representative Danilo Burgos' office. My name is Katrina Boyer. I will be handling our slideshow presentation today. And we wanted to make sure that everyone knew that we are recording today's session. We will welcome your questions in the chat box, but we will address all questions at the end of today's session once we have stopped the video.
Good afternoon. My name is Amari. I was the one to coordinate this event for State Representative Bergos this evening. Welcome to the event. Thank you for joining and participating in the event, and for my presenters to come together and present this event to the information of avoiding scams. I know this has been a hard year for everyone, and also you can come to the office for any state issues or concerns that we have. We're located at 635 West Erie Avenue, and number is 215-223-1890. And again, thanks for joining us this evening. I'll be introducing next Ms. Judy Harris from APR Fraud Protection.
Thank you, Amari. Amari, what I'm going to discuss today is mail fraud. What is mail fraud? Mail fraud is any fraud that uses the U.S. mail, whether it comes in your mailbox or you get a call on the phone from someone trying to sell you something, or either if it's online. So, in other words, it's a scheme to get money. That is the only reason that they're out there trying to get over on people. It's a scheme to get money or something of value by offering you a product that's usually not available, and some type of service, maybe overpriced, or an investment opportunity, and it does not live up to its claims. Next. Okay, so the types of mail frauds I'm going to discuss is mail fraud against senior citizens, fraud against veterans, sweepstakes and lottery fraud. That's a really big one, especially now with the pandemic. People are hoping that they get lucky and they win something. Another one is employment fraud, because unemployment is up. And so you get solicitations for employment and they may not really be there, or somebody may want you to pay a percentage or something for the job they're offering. Telemarketing. I know we talk about that a lot because we all get calls that it'll say test or someone we've never heard of, or an area code we're not familiar with. So we get that a lot. And sometimes people answer the phone when they really shouldn't. And financial fraud, and that will be like investing money. They really hone in on seniors for that because they think seniors are retired and that they have extra money coming in. So they look at financial fraud, try and sell them houses or timeshares or something that they really don't want or need, and it's overpriced. And then there's just another general type of all mail frauds. Next. So the first one we're going to talk about is fraud against senior citizens. And I always say, if it's too good to be true, then it's too good to be true. Retirees are impacted by scams more than others because they feel that that's a weaker group that they can talk to. And sometimes seniors are home alone and someone can call them and talk to them, and they really get involved with somebody that is selling them something that shouldn't. And this is all through mail, whether they call your home or you receive it through the post office in your mailbox. Every year, the mail schemes are getting, I guess, wiser and wiser on how to do this kind of stuff. And like I said, it's against senior citizens, but it can touch anybody. It's just that senior citizens are the ones that they really try and take advantage of. And so some of the things that they do, like could be a phony promotion for an event or something like that. And seniors sometimes feel vulnerable and they will send money. And a lot of times they don't want to check with their children or anyone else to see if that call is really legitimate. So there are other groups that they work together to get over on the senior citizens so they can make money off of them by promising them something that's not really there. The next area would be fraud against veterans. Veterans trust fellow members, and so they will have someone send something in the mail with the logo on it, like from the Operation Protect Veterans. And a lot of these places are not 501c3 nonprofits, but they will say we're not making a profit. And since some of the veterans have PTSD or what have you, or some other kind of issues, they may feel vulnerable. And so when an imposter makes a claim about benefits, and veterans have had some benefit issues, or they are looking for employment or special discounts, sometimes a veteran will fall for it. So that's another one that we hope that veterans don't fall into it. And further down in my slides, I will tell you how you can kind of tell that and how you can verify all of that. So everything that you get in the mail, veterans and seniors, it's not always what it says. As I said earlier, if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. Next. Okay. Sweepstakes and lottery fraud. That's another one. Well, people aren't working now. A lot of people are unemployed, and you'll get something in the mail. You should never send money to win money. And I have seen that come through with the junk mail, send $10 to participate in this lottery, or you could win 100,000 or what have you. A lot of people fall for that because they're down on their luck, they need the money, and they find out that it's just a scam. They'll have a sweepstakes, and you can always find out about these sweepstakes by calling Better Bureau or something. A lot of times they'll tell you won a prize and you haven't won a prize. And there's people that will continue to do that if you send them something and then you find yourself out of a lot of money. The sweepstakes scam is like really big because I've seen them even in coming to my house. They will tell you if you send in $100, you can win this or you can win that. But never fall for that. And if you think it's a scam, you can always report it. As I said in a slide later, we'll go over that. Now, kind of tied into the other one that the sweepstakes and unemployment. So there are several agencies out that if you are looking for a job, you can send them their resume. Agencies get paid when they find you a job. So there's never any reason for you to pay. Let's say there's Harris Employment Agency, and I say, I can find you a job, but it's going to cost you a fee. Well, it doesn't work that way. They do that to deceive people who are seeking employment by giving them false hope. They think that, yeah, if I send this money in, they're going to find me the job of my dreams. And that does not happen. Most recruiters or employment agencies, when they find a job, the employer gives them a percentage. There's no way that should happen, that they should have to pay for a job. If you're sending in your resume and to a legitimate employment agency, not one that you get in the mail that you can't find their email address, their internet address, or you can't find out anything about them. Because, you know, if you send your money and you send your resume also, they're getting information on you, additional information than what they have now. So that employment fraud and the sweepstakes and lottery fraud are really big ticket items for people that want to pull a fraudulent scheme on people. And it happened before the pandemic, but now it's happening even more because there's so many people out of work and trying to get money one way or another. Next. Okay. So, telemarketing fraud. I'm sure all of us have put our phone numbers on the do not call list. Is it working? Maybe so, maybe not. But I still get telemarketing calls about your computer, and you can get them in the mail, postcards, different things like that. That is just fraud. Telemarketing fraud starts when you get a postcard or a letter in the mail, and then there's an 800 number for you to call, or a toll-free number, asking you information about yourself and telling you you could do this or you could do that. But that doesn't really happen in the real world. Those people are out to get money from you. And once they get some information on you, they keep calling and calling. And it doesn't matter who you are, if you're senior or you're young or old. Telemarketing is like one of the largest frauds. And even though we've put our names on the do not call list, they have resorted to sending you information through the mail. And that's, as I said earlier, that's what makes it mail fraud, because it's to do with the U.S. postal system, and it came to you through a postcard, and that shouldn't happen. But I notice myself, you throw that out and you still get more mail and more mail. And I tell people all the time, don't just throw it in the trash. You should shred it when you get this kind of information on telemarketing. Not only ignore it, but you should throw it in the trash. And if you notice, if anybody that's ever called one, the telemarketer often has a convincing sales speech. They're great salespeople, and they use a high pressure tactic to trick the person into handing over personal information. And once they get that information on you, they're going to keep sending you information in the mail or keep calling you. And the offers that they are making, they're not there. They're just not available. But that's how they do that to people. And if you're vulnerable and you don't really do your homework, that is what can happen to you. You end up losing some money on that. Okay, so another one will be financial fraud. That's when deception that uses financial transactions for personal gain. Any offer that requires a payment first. Say that you get some mail. We all get mail about a new credit card. Some of the banks you've never heard of. You get information about a new credit card, about a balance transfer, and some of these pages aren't legit. So if there's an offer that requires payment first for a credit card, and they're not going to check your credit, for one thing, because everybody does that now, they check your credit. Or they say they're going to give you an advance on a loan. And if that is the case, and you didn't apply, and they're sending you information in the mail, right there, a red flag should go up that is not for you. Okay. So sometimes they'll give you an amazing deal on a product or a service. That is probably a scam. A lot of times you haven't asked for that information, and they just solicit you from a number for your address, and that's just what you don't want. Something that easy that, oh, I can get $50,000 just by signing my name. And that is a red flag right there, because no one can lend you money like that. But they're using the post office and they're using the mail, and you get mail, and you're going to look at that and think, hey, this is for me. I know there was one scam that was going around. People were saying, can you be a shopper? And they were sending a check or something like that. And I think they shut that company down because they found out they weren't legit, and people were sending in money to shop for other people, and they weren't doing that. And then when they went to look for this company, they had a P.O. box that had been shut down, and nobody could find them anywhere. So they're out there. Financial fraud, telemarketing fraud, they're really there to find out how they can make money off people with just really bad information, and just, I call it scandalous. It's a scam, but they feed off of people that are weak or that want to get something extra because they know who those people are. And if you notice how much junk mail you get, I mean, when the scammers send out tons of mail, if they get 2 or 3 hits, that's made their day. They just want to get a few hits a day. They know they're not going to get they won't get people like us because we're smarter. But somebody else that's down in their luck, yeah, that person might say, yeah, I'm going to sign up to get a loan, or I'm going to give this information. And then they got all of your personal information. And then sometimes they can steal your identity also. So be careful. Next. And so those are the main types. And there's other types, just general mail fraud. And that would be schemes using mail in some form to persuade people and request money. I'm sure all of us have heard, probably at one point or another, someone was collecting money for, quote, nonprofit, and that nonprofit didn't exist, but people were willing to send it to them, but they never checked with the Better Business Bureau or the U.S. Post Office or looked up any information on them. And you can find out that information. I'll go over that. But there's people out there with phony nonprofits. I think, I'm not sure how long ago that was. There was a case in Philadelphia. A lady said she had helped a homeless guy, and she had sent out tons of information to get money. And they found out later that both of them were fraudulent. She knew the guy, they were working together, but people fell for it because it was a very touching case that she helped this homeless guy. And she really did, and they were friends, but it worked. So you have to be careful. Another thing will be brochures with services for really low prices. That doesn't happen. You have an idea how much things cost, or like a ballpark figure how much things will cost you. And so when you get something that's dirt cheap, you're like, have to give them like the side eye on that price, because there's usually something unscrupulous going on with that person or that organization, that they're going to offer you something very low and they're making 100% profit because that item is not there. So that's what makes that like sound kind of fishy for somebody. Another thing that falls into that general category would be phony inheritance notifications. I haven't seen those, but I do know that they exist. I have read about them, and people fall for them. And to get them, sometimes they'll say, well, you need to send in $100 to get the paperwork or to get this. And they never get it. And sometimes they're out of thousands and thousands of dollars before they realize that they've been taken, that they shouldn't have done that. And then after the fact, they will check with the Better Business Bureau or some other type, the U.S. Postal Service, and they'll find out no, and they'll have a laundry list of other people that they have done that too. I didn't have a slide for it, but there's like people that just really did bad things about sending out inheritance notifications. They will get some death certificate information, send it, and say you do this or you do that. And for the paperwork, you need to pay $500. And they made a lot of money off of that. So be careful when you get that in the mail. And the last one that falls into the general category would be notices about payment for free services. Does that sound right? You pay for something free? So right away, I'm thinking, wait a minute, it's free. Why am I paying? So that's another thing that you should be aware of. If it's free, then hey, just give it to me. I shouldn't have to pay for it if it's free. But they are so crafty in wording the mail, and when they send it to people, a lot of times people will fall for it, and it's just not true. So you have to be aware of all of this stuff that's going on out there and how it could affect you, your family members, your kids, and it is starting to get, it's already bad, it's getting worse. And I don't know if it's due to the pandemic or people have seen that, hey, we can send this in the mail and we can make money, we can do this and that. So I don't know if it's like a copycat thing or pandemic. So I'm thinking it's a combination of the copycat and the pandemic. They found some people they can make money off. So please don't. Always, I would say too, if you're going to send some money to someone you don't know, or you got something in the mail that is just like you have to question it, I would say don't send any money. Or check with someone at least to find out if this company or if that person or the organization is legitimate. And do they have a street address? Where are they located? A lot of times you will get things in the mail, and with the internet now, a lot of places don't have a street address or a P.O. box, but they can be tracked down some kind of way through the Better Business Bureau or U.S. Postal Service. So they can be found if they are legit, and if they are not on Main Street today and on Smith Boulevard tomorrow. So those are the things that you have to look out for to make sure that you aren't hurt or you're losing money that you shouldn't have to lose due to mail fraud. Next. So, as I said, you can always check everything. If you're getting something and it doesn't sound right, like, I'm paying for something free. Nah, that doesn't sound right. And I know you can't write this down right now. A guide to preventing mail fraud. There's a link for that. And then if there's anything I've discussed and you think that hits home with you, you can file a complaint. You can fill out and submit the mail fraud complaint form online, or you can call this 800 number to file a complaint about suspected mail fraud. And they do answer the phone. It puts you through a few prompts, but you will get a person to speak with. So that's very helpful if you feel that you've been a victim. So always use that number. Now, any of the slides that I have here, that my email address is at the end, and if you want to email me or call me, I will make sure that you get the slides with all of this information. Here's more information on the fraud. And so I am also with AARP Fraud Watch Network. And if you go to this site on aarp.org, believe it or not, there are about 100 scams that people have fallen for and lost, from small sums to very large sums of money. And you go to that site and just, there's 4 columns, and you look at each column and you will see, yeah, something happened here or something happened there with the person. So there are a lot of frauds out there. You just have to be careful. And U.S. Postal Service fraud, that's way up on the top. That's because it's so easy. You just like put a stamp on something or do some bulk mail, and you can send it out to 1,000 people. And like I said, if you get a couple of hits, then your job is done. You've made the money. So here are some other places that give information on mail fraud, and they also have other examples of what has happened to people. But you can go on any of these sites. The one for the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, you can order brochures from there. And of course, I mentioned the Better Business Bureau earlier. They will tell you if you get something in the mail, say from Harris Financial, you can call and find out, hey, is that a legitimate company or what? And everybody may not be a member of the Better Business Bureau, but the Better Business Bureau can tell you if they're a legitimate organization, or if, say, Harris Financial, no, the person for that has 4 or 5 different addresses, and we suspect mail fraud for that person, so please ignore it. So these are the ones that you can contact. Next. So, as I said, on the AARP Fraud Watch Network, have you seen this scam? There are over 100 scams on there, including the one that I discussed. And you can report it on, there's a scam tracking map, because we keep track of, are there more scams for postal in this area than that area, and a total of how many. So you can just look at all the scams and how they rank. But there are so many of them, and there are new ones popping up every day. I mean, now with the stimulus checks coming, and some people are getting them in the mail, some people are saying, well, we can get your stimulus check for you quicker, just pay this fee. And they have been successful on that scam, people mailing in money to get their stimulus checks before anybody else. That's mail fraud, because they contacted that person through the U.S. mail. And as I said about the frauds, you can always go to aarp.org and sign up for the watchdog alerts. I'm Judy Harris, and that's my number. And you can call me. That's a business phone number. I'm fine with that. You can send me an email, and I will send you all of these links. And then my last slide is a form you can fill out, and you will be on one step ahead of the scammers, because once you fill this form out, you go into a database with AARP, and if there's a scam out there that's really happening a lot, or a new scam, you will be alerted automatically. So this is the form, and I can send you a link to that too. So my email address is easy, because it's just my last name, first name, Harris Judy @Verizon.net. But you can also call me too. Thank you. Okay. That is the end of my presentation. And so now I am going to introduce Mr. David Shallcross. He's from the State Attorney General's office.
Thank you very much, Judy. It was great to have you on with us this afternoon. I always appreciate hearing from our friends at AARP. So today I'm here from representing our Attorney General, Josh Shapiro. On behalf of the Attorney General, he thanks you for taking your time to tune into today's program. Obviously, these are important things that we need to discuss, and we all need to share this, because it happens to everybody. My state phone rings off the hook with phone scams. It's so funny, because when I answer it, of course, I'm going to say, Office of the Attorney General, and boy, do they hang up, right? So, if you're getting these calls, and I'm sure you are, because I know everyone I know is telling me about them, right? When you work in this kind of field, every relative calls you. Guess what the call I got today? I got this call yesterday, and I tell everybody the same thing, First off, just slow everything down. Pause. Hit your pause button, right? And just think a few minutes before you react. It's all about reactions. And our slides today are going to give you those examples. So if we can jump on to the next slide, we're going to talk about charity calls. Right. And you heard Judy talk a little bit about charity mailers, right? They do the same thing. They'll send you something in the mail. They'll also call you by telephone. And boy, when they get you on the telephone, right away, it's the warm up, right? They call you by your first name. Walter, hi, how are you today, Walter? Well, yeah, who is this? You're thinking, right? You don't know who this person is. And they start talking about whatever nonprofit or organization they might represent. And it could be one that you've heard of. It might be the American Red Cross. It might be Salvation Army. It could be any of the big ones. And I'm not picking on anybody. They're all great organizations, and they do a lot of good work for a lot of people that really need the help. The problem isn't the organization. The problem is the caller, who might be pretending to represent an organization. They may not be from the American Red Cross. They may not be from Salvation Army. They may not be from Wounded Warriors or Disabled American Veterans or your police association or your firefighters fund or even Children's Hospital. It could be a total scam, and that hurts more than just you. That hurts the real charities that are depending on people making donations, because now everybody's afraid. You don't want to donate, because we're telling you to watch out for fraud, and it's very, very important that you do that. So, when you get these calls, first off, don't fall for the, hey, Walter, how are you nonsense, and the, can we count on you again this year? Well, that means you're feeling like, well, maybe I've given in the past and it's okay. No. don't fall for it. Really stop, hit the pause button and think for yourself. So, well, wait a minute. Folks, I'm going to have to call you back. Could you mail me some information? Because most scammers are going to pick one format or another. They're either going to be online scamming, door-to-door scamming, marketing through mailers, or calling you by telemarketing on the phone. Most of them aren't prepared to cross over. So when you say, hey, I don't have time to talk to you on the phone right now, could you mail me last year's financial report and all your information? They'll probably hang up, or they'll really press you to give up a credit card or debit card number over the phone, and you don't want to do that, obviously. So don't just believe that it's a charity calling. Do your homework. Find out if it's a charity. Call in the Department of State and see if they are licensed to be calling you. That's always a great start. But just don't jump right in it, and don't let them talk you into this stuff. And we go from charity calls into our next topic is sweepstakes scams and lotteries. And again, AARP does a great job at the Fraud Watch Network talking about the mailers. Well, again, all these scams can be mailed, emailed, phone call. You're going to hear about them all night long. But here's the tips, right? You got to be in it to win it. If you didn't buy a ticket, why are they calling you? You don't win the lottery because they send you a mailer or call you on the telephone or email you. You got to buy the ticket, folks, and you buy it ahead of time and you wait for the drawing, right? Same thing with entering a sweepstakes contest. You might want to win that great cruise to the Bahamas. You might want to win $1 million, don't we all? Right? That'd be wonderful. But if you didn't enter the contest and fill out the form in advance, you're probably not a winner. And of course, the bad guys have an answer for everything. So when you question that, you go, well, wait a minute, I didn't enter this contest. They're going to tell you it wasn't necessary. This is a random selection of a great customer. Nonsense. Okay? Don't fall for it. Again, we're going to hit that pause button. We're going to slow it down and think about it. Do I even shop at that store? We had one case where we heard complaints come in, and the caller was saying that it was a random selection of a VIP customer. And the person was smart enough to say, well, which store was I in when I was selected? And they said, oh, this is a mix of stores. It could be Home Depot. It could be Lowe's, Target, Walmart. They named like all the big stores, CVS, Walgreens. Well, we all shop at one or the other of some of these stores. So there's a chance you've been in one of them. But think about it. Do all these stores going to go together and throw the money into a big pot to give you $1 million? No. Those stores are competitors. They're not in it together to give you $1 million contest prize without you entering a form or being a loyal customer. It's another scam. And of course, what do they want from you? They want you to pay the taxes and fees in advance. That's illegal. It's automatically a scam if someone tells you you need to pay in advance to receive a prize. That's a scam every time. So remember, you got to be in it to win it. If you didn't enter, forget about it. And secondly, anyone asking you for money in advance is probably a scam. And, I've actually done my homework. I've called Reader's Digest and I've called Publishers Clearinghouse. They're the two big sweepstakes companies in our U.S. nation here. And, that's probably who the scammer is going to pretend to be because you recognize the name and you might be trusting of it. They do not call their grand prize winners. Neither of those organizations will be calling you on the phone. So anybody telling you it's Reader's Digest or Publishers Clearinghouse is scamming you over the telephone. They send you an overnight express mailer, or they show up at your front door like on the TV commercial, the big check, the van, the roses, the flowers, the cameras. That's how they do it, folks. Don't buy in on an unknown caller telling you you're a big winner. Moving right along to our next topic. How about government and banking impersonators? And I think you're going to recognize this one when I tell you we've all gotten the call with the person trying to scare you saying, this is the IRS. Oh, and you got a problem on your return. Hey, nobody wants to mess with the Internal Revenue Service. That's enough to scare you, right? So I think that's a tactic. The scammers are trying to set you off guard, trying to alarm you that there's a serious matter. It's the IRS and there's going to be penalties and fines. Well, we don't want that. Or maybe they're going to tell you it's the FBI and they're a criminal investigation. Your name came up and you have to pay some fees to clear this up, or they need you to continue a ruse with using your account number to actually capture the scammer. That's all nonsense. Government does not call you on the phone and ask for your information. Government will not call you on the phone and ask you for your account numbers or your money for ongoing investigations. That's a scam. And now with COVID, perhaps the call is Centers for Disease Control or the Secretary of Health calling. Don't believe it. Always pause and you check it out. Do your homework. We're going to show you how to do those things. But right away, just because somebody says they're from a government office or a financial institution, they could be calling you saying that, well, it's Visa or MasterCard or Discover, whatever credit card you carry. And, remember, it's not just what's in your wallet, who's trying to get into your wallet. These scammers will pretend to be the well-known banks and credit card firms, and they're going to alarm you with some type of account problem or issue. And they always need to do one thing. And what's that? Verify you're the customer. Nonsense. Hang up, get off the line. Don't provide these callers your account numbers, PIN numbers, or any personal account information whatsoever. Again, all scammers, they're pretending to scare you as government or the bank with some type of concern. And I'm here to tell you, don't buy in on it. And these are scary because we're living in some scary times. We're all doing the best we can, and I wish everyone well because it's hard. We're home more often. We're kind of sitting there waiting to have someone to converse with, to talk to, and boom, here comes the caller on the phone, and it's a scam artist. We can't afford to lose our hard-earned money, so don't believe it. If you think it's the government or the banking institution, you want to reach out to them directly yourself and then verify all that kind of information. We're going to move in now to our next slide. We're going to give you a great tip. Watch out for the grandparent scam, right? Because, boy, we all love our grandkids, and that's, it hits home, right? It hits you right in the heart. That phone rings, and you pick it up, and the person on the other end is going to say something like, oh, Grandma or Grandpop, if a gentleman answers, I'm in trouble. Your heart sinks. That's your grandchild, you believe, because now you're upset. You're not even thinking clearly. Does it sound like Jimmy? It might. Do they know Jimmy's name? Did they say who they are? Sometimes they do, because we put way too much on social media. Maybe grandma didn't put it out there, but the family talked about grandmom and everybody, and her birthday's coming up. Jimmy's on there saying, I can't wait for grandma's 80th birthday. We're going to have a big party. Well, now the bad guy knows grandma's name, Jimmy's name. It's the grandson. That sets the stage for this phone call. But if they don't know the name, they're going to pretend. They're just going to say it's your favorite grandson. You're going to go, well, which one? Oh, come on, grandma. You know it's me. And what do? We anticipate and we let it slip. Oh, Jimmy, is that you? Well, you just gave them the name. Now they know it. And of course, they're going to tell you, yes, it's Jimmy. Don't buy into this. Jimmy's not in prison in Mexico. Jimmy is not under arrest for fishing without a license up in Canada. Jimmy's not in a car wreck down in the city. Call the house and ask where Jimmy is and see if everybody in your family is safe before you do anything else. Don't follow instructions by the caller. Do not give out personal account information or financial information to the caller. Always confirm where your family is and how everyone is. Next up, we're going to talk about how you identify a scam that you never even heard of. Wow, that sounds like a pretty good trick. It's very easy. When you get a phone call, think about the call itself. Who is this and why are they calling me now? What are they talking about? Why is this an emergency? And why do they need my information or my account number? So if you look at the word scam on your screen, you see SCAM. Each letter stands for a word that gives you a clue that it might be fraud. S stands for sudden. It happens out of the blue. C is for contact. Who's contacting you is probably someone you don't know or someone who believes that they are a family member or a friend. Act now, letter A. It's sense of urgency. It has to happen immediately. And the letter M stands for money. They always want your money or your information to get to your money, right? Your social security number, your date of birth, your account number, policy number. Woo, boy, that's too much information to give out. So when you get a sudden contact and they're rushing you into acting now and they want your money or information, it's probably a scam, folks. We want to make sure that we remember that and we watch out for that because this is a big clue that's going to protect you and get you to know that, this is something we have to watch out for. Next up is our contact information. I want to make sure that you know how to reach us because these scams, they hit everybody. And this is very important too. I want you to understand, folks, do not be embarrassed or ashamed if you are victimized. That's the most important I think I can really say to you today is everyone is a victim who's been frauded. It's not that you've done anything wrong. There's nothing about anyone's intelligence or education that has anything to do with this. Your financial status, none of that matters. Your race, your zip code, nobody cares. If you have a social security number and a date of birth and you have some money sitting around or in the bank, you're going to be targeted. It's an equal opportunity crime. They don't care who you are or where you are. They're going to try to get a hold of you. And the phones, they make these robo dials, right? I heard Judy talk about the do not call list. Do not call is for legitimate businesses not to call you to sell you stuff. And it does help. It does work. I mean, not 100%, right? Because some people just ignore the law, but you're better on the do not call list than not. But what happens when the people don't care about the do not call list, the bad guys, the criminals? Well, they use computer dialers, robocallers, and they just dial numbers until it equals a phone number. They don't know who you are half the time. They don't care. If you pick it up and answer, they're going to talk to you about extending your car warranty. They're going to talk to you about your college debt. They're going to talk to you about COVID-19 tracking and tracing. They're going to talk to you about financial opportunities and investments and all the things we just told you about. The charity calls, the sweepstakes scams, government bank impersonators, grandma scam. It goes on and on and on. Because scammers use your emotional trigger. They want to get you off thinking clearly. That's why I say hit that pause button. Think clearly, because they're going to use your emotions to trigger you to be upset or excited. So upsetment, grandma, I'm in prison. Well, that's upsetting. That'll get you off your game. Excitement, good joy is another thing that's an emotional trigger. You've won $1 million. Well, oh my goodness, oh my gosh. Now you're not thinking about who's calling, why are they calling, did I enter the contest? These are all the tricks of the trade. The bad guys use those emotional triggers so you don't think clearly and that you respond and you offer information. I'm telling you, do not provide any information to an unknown caller. Do not trust caller ID. If you have that caller ID on your screen on your phone, don't trust it. I could go out and get an app on the computer as a criminal, and I can make it say any name and phone number I want. I can put on there IRS. I can put on the phone Visa credit services. I can put on the phone the real number for any office, any state, city, local agency. I can just put unknown caller. I can put a name. I can be Dave Shawcross calling you, and you think, oh, I know Mr. Shawcross. I saw him on the program with Representative Bergos. No, I'm not going to call you and ask you for money. I'm not doing that. But somebody could use my name without my knowledge. And someone could use your own phone number to show up on your screen, and you're like, how am I calling myself? You're not, but somebody is, and that's a criminal. They're misusing that data, that information to then misguide you as to who might be calling. If it says the local hospital, you might think it's an emergency for a family member and pick it up. Don't. Let your answering machine do its job. Take all the calls as messages, and I want you to hold off and listen to the message a couple of times through and then decide if you think it sounds legitimate. And even then, if it sounds pretty legitimate, I want you to take one more step before you react. I want you to find the actual direct dial phone number and confirm everything. So if it's your bank, that's easy. It's on every monthly bank statement, isn't it? Customer service number. If it's your water bill, it's on the customer service bill. The phone number's there on the status of that statement, on the invoice, on whatever billing that you get, your statements. If it's a credit card, it's on the back of the credit card in small numbers. You can always look up a number. And if it's a state office or a government offices, our friends at Representative Burgos' office are there to help you. They will look it up and give you the number to call. They will help you. That's what customer service is about, and that's what our legislative offices are there for. They're to help you in the neighborhood, right? So don't just take it on by yourself. Don't respond to these caller IDs and without checking them out. My best example is don't even answer the phone. Here's my number one tip of the day. Don't answer the phone. Let all your calls go to the answering machine and check it out. On behalf of Attorney General Josh Shapiro, I'm Dave Shawcross, Director of Senior Protection, and we thank you for tuning in. It's now my honor and pleasure to introduce your next presenter. Good friend of ours, the Assistant District Attorney in the Philadelphia DA's office, Mr. Alex Blumenthal.
Hello, I hope my video is on. Thank you, Dave, and thank you to Representative Bergos for having me. I want to thank you on behalf of DA Krasner and First Assistant Temin. I am the supervisor of the Elder Justice Unit at the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office, and in that capacity, I do see a fair amount of scams. Oh, I should also say thank you to Katrina Boyer and to Ms. Cruz for helping put this together. So, you've heard about scams that reach out to you over the U.S. Postal Service and by phone. And I believe you're going to hear about email scams. And of course, there are scams that come to you through social media. You also have scams that come right to your door. If I could have the next slide, please. Of course, COVID-19, I think, has cut down on this little sort of, I don't know if you could call it even a silver lining, but at least something that's come out of this horrible year. Because, of course, we're all much more suspicious and wary of any strangers who come to our door, forgetting whether they are involved in a scam or not, simply because we don't want to be exposed to other people, particularly seniors. So, in a lot of cases, scams have moved online because of this and over the phone and by email. However, there is one scam in particular, I'm going to talk about one more, but one in particular that is still coming to your door. If I could have the next slide. That is home improvement scams. So this is a common scam that we have prosecuted a lot. We get a lot of reports of, and that is still being done in person. Of course, one thing I want to note is that not all conflicts with your contractor or with your home improvement provider are necessarily crimes. We, of course, have a lot of dissatisfaction with contractors. Anybody who's ever owned a home or had to have one prepared has had this headache, and you will get into a dispute with a contractor. It's not necessarily a criminal dispute. So what I would note is that, just speaking very broadly, the crimes are when the person has set out from the beginning or decided at some point during the providing the home improvement services to scam you. And that means to take your money and provide little or basically no services in return. So, and on the other hand, what you will have with a civil dispute is where you are simply dissatisfied with the contractor. That person took your money, maybe their work wasn't that good, or they didn't do it the way you were supposed to, or maybe they made some horrible mistake, but that the facts and evidence do not show that they had set out to steal your money and scam you. Now, of course, this can be a very blurry line. It's something the courts are preoccupied with wrestling over. But I've tried to sort of give you a rule of thumb because, of course, there are going to be some different offices and procedures you would follow when you have a civil problem as opposed to a criminal problem. I'd note that in criminal court, and roughly this is when you are trying to put someone in jail or on probation, convict that person of a crime in criminal court. You are needing to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt to a judge or a jury. It's a very high standard. Civil court is more when somebody has been negligent or and owes you money. Most disputes are civil. If I could have the next slide, please. So just a few warning signs of people who are going to engage in scams. And actually, I want to note we have somebody from the AARP here. I use the AARP Fraud Watch website to help prepare this. I think it's really an excellent website. So if you want more information, I would encourage you to check them out. But one of the best indications is roamers. So many of our fraud cases start with somebody roaming the neighborhood, offering their home improvement services. Usually the good contractors are too busy to roam around offering their services. They are busy working on the jobs they've been paid for. And I think, again, if you have any experience with home improvement or home repair, You know that getting the reputable contractors to show up and do the work is one of the hardest things because they are so busy. Another sign, and Dave talked about this a little, this is true for so many scams, is pressure. Anytime somebody is pressuring you to make a decision right now, to take their services right now, for some reason they have a limited time offer, that is always a big blinking red sign. As I said, most contractors are really busy. They can't even get to you. But there is absolutely no reason. Home improvement services are one of the bigger purchases you're going to make. And no reason you shouldn't be allowed to have a day to sleep on that. A large payment up front is another big warning sign. There are down payments. Generally, that is pretty common practice when doing home improvements. Not always, but sometimes, but they should be really no more than a third of the estimate. And you should be really wary about, and this I'll skip down a little bit, at that slippery slope where you start off with a payment, oh, and then we're going to need some more money. We're going to need some more money. I know we found some more problems and some more problems and more serious problems. And when you started out having your, door painted and suddenly they're telling you your house is falling down, that's a really big warning sign. Another thing is the oral agreement. Generally, these contracts should be in writing. That was one of the, both a warning sign if it's an oral agreement and a safety net when you have that written contract. Again, with so many frauds, anything that's too good to be true probably is. Don't automatically take that lowest bid. Scammers will often offer a very unrealistic price for serious work. Anything where the person is demanding cash, it is always better to pay with some sort of traceable form of currency, whether that's a credit card or a check or financing. This again, both because scammers love cash, it's a warning sign, but if you are scammed, it is much easier to get some redress and some help when you can trace that payment method. If I could have the next slide, please. So I'm going to just go through a few examples of cases that have come through the DA's office, and what the allegations were, and kind of try and wrap that up with some of the recommendations about fraud. I tried to give out some catchy names here. So the first, we have fraud all the way from the UK. This is a case where you had a roamer, as I said. The complainant was approached as an older man, approached outside his home, said, hey, it looks like your house could use some work. I'm paraphrasing the allegations here. The inspection leads to saying, hey, you need some roof repairs. So they start supposedly repairing the roof. The guy who first came out has some buddies who come out. Looks like they're doing a little work. But then suddenly the support beams in this man's house needed replacing. And then the front wall was caving in. And this poor guy had given out thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in upfront payments. And then they made a lot of noise and kicked up a lot of dust, but didn't really do any work besides finding these issues. And I'll say the complainant here said he did have some problems with his house. He probably did need his roof fixed. But one day, just one man showed up and said, oh, I don't know where anybody else is. And then he was gone too. And the detectives' investigation showed they had all fled to the UK with this man's money. So unfortunately, this gentleman ignored a few warning signs, but he did pay by check, which allowed the detective to trace the person who did this, and hopefully it might result in a successful prosecution. The next case I wanted to look at is the hustler. Again, another guy who's just roaming around offering work. What was extraordinary about him is he just went from one senior citizen to the next. He had a history of doing this. He was on probation for it. And then we, thanks to a pretty diligent investigation by a victim assistance officer at the police department and a couple of detectives, they found he had approached, I think, up to 5 different people and taken these upfront payments, basically done little or no work, shoddy work, painting concrete he was supposed to repair, things like that. But just one after the other, and again, just people who get approached on the street to do home improvement work. No plumbing. This gentleman contracted for some plumbing on his property, 2 properties, paid for 2. Work started on one, The guy managed to dig a giant hole in the ground and make a big mess of the guy's property. But then he started demanding more money to fill it in. And I want to note this case because the allegation here is he demanded more money, and the victim was wise enough to realize that he was on that slippery slope. And he said, no, I'm not paying you any more money. We'd agreed on a certain amount, and he went to the police. The Not So Perfect Home Improvement Charity. This was a case that just recently went to trial. The victim here was referred to a man who said he could put down carpet in her house. She needed the job done very quickly. He prepared a handwritten contract for her, so that was something. He said he was from the Perfect Home Improvement Charity, that was a bona fide organization that to help people with their home improvement. And he accepted a couple down payments, but then over the next weeks and months, he simply did no work, despite repeated texts, calls, everything this woman could do. She went to the Attorney General, who very helpfully tried to mediate with her. This guy promised and promised and promised, did nothing, and eventually she had to go to the police. So I think this falls in the too good to be true category, but if I would note that she paid by check and she had a written contract, both of which were very helpful in securing a prosecution. But when somebody calls themselves something like the Perfect Home Improvement Charity, I think that is a pretty big warning sign. Next, please. So Dave talked to you about the Grandparent scam, which is usually a phone scam, as he said. I have had a couple cases where that does then come to your door. The scammers on the phone say, my associate is coming by to pick up the money, knocks on the door and accepts either checks or cash directly from the senior citizens. Generally, this is not how bail works. This is not how getting any child out of trouble works. Nobody's going to come to your door and demand cash. I will say that the cases that were prosecuted, the victim was wise enough in one case to call the police and have them waiting when the person came to the door. And in another, really started to realize that something was very wrong. Took photographs of the person who came to the door and that person's license plate. So just to note that sometimes these frauds that have moved online still migrate to in person because they want to get that money directly from you or those checks directly from you. If I could have the next slide, please. So just a few things to remember. And this is a bit of a repeat of what you've heard before, but I do think this is important. And there's so many varieties of scams. They come in so many different varieties. It's hard to kind of give detailed advice about every one, but there's some general advice that really helps. And you've heard it before. I'll repeat it because I think it's important. Do not rush. Don't rush into sending people money. There's no reason for it. Don't panic. As Mr. Shellcross said, don't let him push your emotional buttons. So important. This is all these scams rely on you not thinking clearly. Don't be pushed. You know, if you have that little voice in your head saying this isn't good, you listen to that and give it some time. And when you give it some time, I'll say do your research. Check some references. Does this contractor have a reference? Have they done work for somebody? No, hopefully, for somebody reputable. Check for a license. And on the L&I in Philadelphia Licenses and Inspections runs a website where you can check if the contractor's license. Or any business. Is this business actually listed? Can you find their listing somewhere where you can then call back to a main line? Like if I call you, I'm working from home these days, and I call and I say I'm from the district attorney's office, and you say, hey, this is a cell phone calling me, not even from Philadelphia, because I'm not originally from Philadelphia. I would tell you, no worries, hang up and call back on the, you know. Please remember, to share your story. Scammers so often rely on isolation. They want people scared and alone. Share your story with people you trust, friends, family, law enforcement. I know it can be embarrassing, but please, this is how so many of these scams are discovered, is you talk to somebody trusted and that person says, hey, wait a minute, something's wrong here. And also, you are not alone. So many people get taken in by these kinds of scams because they do push your emotional buttons I work with elder victims, but it's not just them. All kinds of people do. It happens to so many people. And in hindsight, you know better, but in the moment, you don't. And I'll just also say, you know, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If I could have the next, please. The next are, I'm going to, a couple pages of phone numbers. Philadelphia Corporation from the Aging deals with financial exploitation. Senior Law Center is an excellent resource for people who are impoverished but need civil litigation help when we can't help you here with VAs. The Senior Law Center is very helpful. CARI, which is the Center for Advocacy for the Rights and Interests of the Elderly, can advocate for elder crime victims. I'm going to refer you to the AARP Fraud Watch, whose representative is right here and has already shared the name. I'll also say the first step is, if you think crime has been committed against you in Philadelphia, to report that to the police department, either over the phone or by going down to your local district. I'll note, if it is a scam, one of these more paper-intensive cases, the more evidence you can gather and bring down, the better it is. So bring those canceled checks, the bank statements, whatever evidence of the crime you have. And my last slide, please. Just my contact information, or excuse me, the main contact information of the district attorney's office, and our fraud hotline, our fraud complaint email hotline, the main number for the Philadelphia Police Department, where you can, of course, go down to your local district. And then my actual final slide is my contact information, Alex Blumenthal. Thank you very much for having me. It was good to be here on behalf of DA Krasner. And now I'm going to turn it over to Katrina Boyer from the Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities.
I always forget that I have to unmute myself. So thank you so much, Alex, for that great introduction. And, you know, it's kind of hard to follow up behind such great presenters, but I'm going to do the best that I can to help us understand email scams and why we shouldn't necessarily open very many emails. My reality is that unless you're my mom or my kids, I probably am not going to open your email. I do most of my financial transactions online, but I never click on those emails because it's too hard to tell if they're actually coming from where we think they are. So today we're going to actually talk about some of the things that we need to look out for when we get emails. I won't want to reiterate all of the things that everyone else said, but I do want to provide you with sort of the top 5 things that you need to do if you become a victim of an email scam or a phone scam or door-to-door scam or even a regular mail scam, because I think that is so critical for all of us to understand. So when you're taking a look at email, you want to make sure that you know your sender. Also, look for improper grammar and bad spelling. So often criminals are using free translators that you can find on the internet to convince to translate the emails that they're trying to send out. So what happens is the grammar and spelling end up being all messed up. So that's always a good clue. And I always tell people, if you're in doubt, just delete it. You can always find it on the internet if you need to. You can always look on the back of your cards, like some of the other presenters said. If you look on the back of the card or on a statement, those types of things, you can find the telephone numbers to the individual that you're trying to reach from the email. But I want to take just a minute and show a couple of examples. Now, these are examples. If you take a look, this one at the top, it's a prime example of bad grammar. Your PayPal account has been temporarily restricted. We found suspicious email or suspicious activity. In order to open your card back up, you have to click on this link. That's a huge, there's so many red flags on this that show, this is not a legitimate email. If you take a look at the very top, you can see it's kind of this really long, wonky email address. Also, a legitimate email isn't going to say, "Dear customer." It's actually going to have my name. It'll say, "Dear Miss Boyer, dear Katrina." And I don't care what the email looks like. I never click on a link that tells me I have to go into this website and provide my credentials for logging in. That is always a red flag. If I have an account with PayPal and I'm concerned about its being temporarily restricted, I'm going to go to PayPal on the internet. I'm going to use my PayPal app. I'm going to find some other way to log in to check to see how my account is looking, making sure that everything is correct. The second picture here at the bottom says, "Hello, greetings." Well, first of all, that doesn't even make sense, does it? I'm sorry to encroach into your privacy in this matter. Basically, if you read through this, there's an Army officer who wants me he wants to send me 2 trunks of money from Afghanistan. And probably he's going to want me to give him my email address or my telephone number, my address, and eventually he's going to begin to ask me for other personal information. Again, looking at bad grammar, looking at the fact that there's actually not even any way for that person to address me by my actual name. Those are all red flags for potential scams with emails. In order for us to be able to check about whether or not an email is legitimate, I always like to encourage consumers to use what's called the hover technique. If you hover your mouse over an email address on your computer, if you hover it, it will actually pop up and show you where an email is actually coming from. This is another example of an email that I actually received to our informed@pa.gov email address, where the person wants me to send a catalog so that they can order from me. Again, lots of red flags that we can see here. So it's really important that we are looking at, again, grammar, spelling, the way that you're addressed, the email address that it's actually coming from, because it's not difficult to disguise an email address and make it look like it's coming from somewhere else. So if you get an email that's out of character from a friend, go ahead and delete that. Sometimes criminals get a hold of our address books and they can send out an email making it look like it's coming from anyone. And suddenly you receive an email that says it's from Katrina Boyer and Katrina's in trouble. She went to Canada and she got in trouble for drug charges. Much like some of the other presenters talked about, they're trying to pull on your heartstrings and convince you to send money, give up your hard-earned, your account numbers, your personal information. Criminals will go to any length to try and convince us to send money or send personal information. And finally, with email, if you get an email and you know you have an account with that organization, that company, go to an email link, go to a link that you know. When I get emails from my favorite stores that tell me that I've got a discount code that I can use, I don't even use those links. I always go directly to the website and I find the link for the discount code, because it's not risk saving a few bucks, but risking having my personal information stolen. So that's something that we want to make sure that we're actually thinking about before we click on those emails. Much like Dave and Alex said, people send emails trying to connect with us emotionally or giving us that sense of emergency, and they count on that in order to be able to convince us to give up that hard-earned money. Now, recently, we've started hearing a lot about delivery scams, and with the advent of COVID-19, they're actually becoming more and more popular. I was just reading last week about delivery scams being something like the #2 form of frauds and scams. So you get an email that says your delivery is running late. Click on this link so that we can share more information with you to provide you with an update. Or we need the person who sent you this package sent the wrong information. We need you to log into this website and provide the correct information so that we can make that delivery. With so many of us shopping online these days, I can see how it would be easy to fall victim to this. So make sure, like Dave said, that we take a break, that we hit pause before we click on those links. Because sometimes if we click on those links, maybe they aren't trying to get our personal information, but maybe the link will actually connect you to downloading a virus, or even worse, suddenly your computer is locked up and you get a big flashing red sign, that's a big flashing red pop-up that says your computer has been hijacked and you can't get access to it until you pay this astronomical fee. Again, clicking on those links makes us so vulnerable because we don't really know where those links are going or coming from. So it's really important that we keep those things in mind. And again, like Dave said, press pause and take a step back and think about what you're looking at. I do want to provide a link to some other cybersecurity resources. The governor's office has a page dedicated strictly to cybersecurity. There is a work group that makes sure that the information is updated on a semi-regular basis. Since COVID, we've not had a lot of updates to it. However, the information is still very helpful. So if you want to learn more about cybersecurity, email safety, identity theft, internet, and those types of things, I would encourage you to go to pa.gov/guides/cybersecurity. I also wanted to mention that this whole PowerPoint presentation will be sent as a PDF to the representative's office so that you can have access to all of the links and all of the resources that the presenters have provided. I think that the presentations are fabulous. It's so important to get this information out to consumers, but being able to provide copies or files so that consumers can get more information is critical as well. So let's talk about what happens if you become a victim. Whether it was through an email that you got, whether it was from someone coming door to door, over the phone, or even by mail, if you become a victim, there are a series of steps that you need to take. The first, you have got to stop the loss. So whether it's a bank card, a credit card, other types of personal information, you need to make sure that you notify the company that has that card, whether it's your credit card, your debit card, you need to make sure that you notify them and let them know that the card's been compromised, the account's been compromised, you've been victim of identity theft, and you make sure that those accounts are not closed, but that the account numbers are changed and the cards are canceled. You also need to pull a credit report and figure out what kind of damage has been done. And you can do that by going to www.annualcreditreport.com. That's the only one that's mandated by the federal government to provide you with a free copy of the credit report once a year. I will tell you that because of the pandemic, all three credit reporting bureaus, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, have changed that policy. Instead of once a year, you can pull the credit report every single week from all three, at least until I think it's April 1st. You also want to make sure that you report it. Alex talked about reporting to Philadelphia local police. You also want to make sure that you report it to the Attorney General's office. The Pennsylvania Attorney General has jurisdiction over the whole state of Pennsylvania, the whole Commonwealth. But to make it even encompass filing that report in bigger places, filing with the Federal Trade Commission at ftc.gov, make sure that you report it over to a nationwide law enforcement organization, and they actually keep a database where they give other federal agencies access so they can see trends and be able to investigate on that larger spectrum. So that's really important. I always say report it to as many law enforcement or consumer protection organizations that will listen. And then as you get copies of those reports, keep them in a notebook, because I've heard from the U.S. Postal Inspection Service that they were investigating a string of identity thefts that happened 5 years prior. I don't know about any of you, but I don't remember what happened 5 days ago, let alone what happened 5 years ago. So keeping that notebook and putting all of your reports, all the correspondence, record on February 1st, I spoke to Dave Shellcross and I provided him with the report and I gave him the information and this is what he said. Making sure that you notate who you talked to, what time it was, and what you talked about goes a long way in helping any of the law enforcement organizations that are investigating to be able to provide them the resources they need. And I'm not really sure what happened with that recording there, but this brings me to my contact information. My name is Katrina Boyer. I can be reached at katrboyer@pa.gov. You can also reach me at the telephone number listed here. I am always happy to answer your questions and provide additional resources as I am able. With that being said, I am going to stop the recording and we will